Has the Zenkai mechanic reached the point of no return in Dragon Ball Legends? Are we due for some sort of nerf to some of these characters? Do we need more restrictions on Zenkai characters and team utility, such as limiting them and their usages on teams going forward? That's what we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to talk about a lot of different things as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please be sure to listen through as much of it as possible. And if you're new to the channel, we do this all the time. Be sure to subscribe and enable that notification bell. And if you do turn on that bell, make sure that you click it once again and make sure it's set to all as opposed to personalized so you don't miss anything we upload here on the channel. We're going to be uploading a lot of content leading up to and throughout the anniversary. That's the end of the month, beginning of June as well. That's what I'm talking about, the time period there for you. So you guys are going to see a ton of videos related to the news, new characters, etc. So you're not going to want to miss anything. We are in the hype period of Legends once again, my friends, after a dry and dull last couple of weeks here. So we're going to talk about that. Today's video like goal is going to be 2,000. I hope you guys enjoy, and here we go. All right, so let me know in the comments down below what you guys want to see discussed on the channel and things of that nature, videos you guys want to see going forward. And again, today's video like goes 2,000. If you don't help out, typically, maybe now is the time you're going to just decide to do that. So here we go. Zenkais. So I have taken a very adamant stance that the system in and of itself, while it is flawed, while there are a lot of issues with it that we're going to talk about later on, I think it has changed tremendously, such as the utility of characters. They're not as OP as they once were. Generally speaking, there's some outliers, and these are the main outliers you see on the screen. This is not a team. These are the main outliers you see on the screen when it comes to the overall like Zenkai awakenable characters. And then also just the utility of how easy it is to acquire these characters. They put a lot of them in that exchange shop, which could be flawed as well because they had to change that whole mode. It's a little bit more tedious for some players to now beat, but nonetheless, they did make it easier for, you know, the general player base to get these characters, and they updated over time. They're not going to give you the premium new character immediately, but they're going to give you those characters eventually. And just the way that it was initially, it was 20,000 plus CC to summon for these characters and get Zenkai 7 initially. It's now maybe 7,000 if you're not really particularly lucky. I think that's the average. You know, there's a lot of changes that have went into this system. The way it has changed has been for the better, and that's where I want to start this. So there's like maybe 25 Zenkai characters as a spitball random number in the game currently. I pointed out that these are the main ones I think are the outliers. These are the real problems. When people hate on this system, or they hate this system, it's genuinely because of one of these characters. Now, there are some other very exceptional characters that are not listed here because I only have 6 slots really, but these are the main problems, right? Like I could say Super Saiyan Bardock is a freaking issue because he is. The fact he even got a Zenkai is almost criminal, just because he still had that powerful supporting effect for Super Saiyans. Super 17 is a freaking monster that can control the pace of the game almost as good as the LF Goku, I guess. Maybe even better, to be honest. LF Goku Blue here. Blue LF Goku, I guess. Anyways, there are not very many characters that can control the pace of the game, long story short, and he is one of them. Super 17 is a threat. Green Broly and some of the other ones are very underrated, but again, these are the main outliers that a lot of people will point to when it comes to the Zenkai system. So let's take a look at some of the ideas that I have here. Now, just speaking of idea, this is not really, this video is not something I want to be taken as something that I am pushing for in particular, because I'm kind of indifferent, right? You see that top team here, this one right here with the Jocko and Shallot. I did a video with that team. The purple and blue Goku were not really consequential. They were just really Z ability buffs. Any character could take those spots. So you're talking to somebody that typically tries to, when it comes to this game, really try to use characters that are different, characters you're not going to see in combinations you're not going to see on basically anybody else's channels. I try really hard to be original with my team concepts for the most part, and I try to not only do Zenkai Awakened character showcases or Zenkai Awakened characters in general. I try to use a wide variety of characters, and for me personally, running into a lot of different variety with these teams that I use, I can say that I don't think it's a tremendous issue. I think it's probably overblown, but again, it's fair when people have had bad experiences when they're versus some of these characters. Like, it's just not fun seeing 18 solo your whole team, because I think she's the second best Zenkai character in the game behind Gohan, by the way. And it's not fun seeing her solo your whole team and your red character, blah, blah. And that's fair, right? But from my perspective, I use a bunch of different teams. So I threw these teams here in this list to show you some examples of teams people are using. So we're going to start with the extreme example here. So what this is, and this is where the idea of limiting usage of Zenkais comes from. For the record, I mean, personally, I could care less if they do it, personally. Like, if they do, great. If they don't, whatever. It takes away my utility to make those awesome Zenkai boosted videos that really don't really amount to much in terms of you can't really see the damage anyway. But it doesn't really matter, right? So, at least to me. Because I can play either way. So anyways, that being said, that's from my perspective. So here's a scenario where Broly is not a part of this blue, purple Saiyan team typically, but a lot of people will kind of run a team. Look at that fat ability bonus, 4,000, right? I had a video where I got like 5,000 on one of it. It was ridiculous. I mean, that's kind of a whole other thing. It's kind of irrelevant. That full purple team is not beating any like competent team, even though they have that massive ability bonus. That being said, so Broly, he's getting 40 from the Bardock, 40 from himself, 35 from Goku, and that's just, this is just a general look. This is one thing people will do. They'll run a powerful team, and they'll focus highly on one character and do something like that. You may have seen something similar. There are a lot of characters that can really go into this. Like, you can go full monocolor and blah, blah. You might have seen something like this very commonly, actually. I registered it, damn it. I gotta not do that. What that was it was a hybrid team, and it had LF Gohan, and he was getting the Zenkai buffs from the Red Trunks as well. So you have a character who is already ridiculously good, giving him more power. You just, this is where the idea of limiting comes from, where you can take these characters that are ridiculous and give them more. Like I talked about with Broly and how, not Broly, excuse me, with Bardock and how he's a literal threat. The Super Saiyan Bardock, I legitimately don't think should have got a Zenkai, even though he deserves it based on how old he was, how outdated he was. There is one unique that I just didn't want them to, I just didn't want to see that relevant again, right? So speaking of this, here we go. We pull it up here. Super Saiyan Bardock is getting double Zenkai buffs here in this setup. This is a very standard team. This is a very standard Super Saiyan type of team. You probably have run into this team a number of times. Nothing special about this. But if you were to limit the utility and the usage of having this team have more than one Zenkai character, the entire team changes, right? Because you have to run on a team like this, you have to run Broly as your point man, or not Broly, excuse me, Bardock as your point man, as your Super Saiyan, and then the rest of the Super Saiyan team if you only have one, for the record, is completely fodder. Maybe you have two Super Saiyans because they limit it to two characters. That would be different, but the rest of this team is completely fodder. You're not doing much with this team. So that's kind of how things would look, right? So that's one of the things that I want to talk about. I don't think that they're trending in this direction of really doing this. And at worst, if they did do it, I should have said this earlier. So if you see anybody commenting about this, please timestamp this. At worst, if they do it, I think they might limit it to 3, so you don't get a full board of 6, right? I think that's the best case scenario if they do limit it in some way. But I don't think that they're going to do 6 and limit you to 1 or anything. Maybe 3, right? But the thing is, I can't see them really doing it because they've shown that they're not really interested in nerfing characters by the simple fact that those outlier characters are still a thing, right? Especially Gohan and 18 particularly. So there's that. But they've shown they're not really trying to nerf characters, even though they tell you when you sign up to play the game that they can do it whenever they want to. They can balance change characters, blah, blah. They haven't nerfed anyone yet, really. So there's that. But on top of that, though, you have to think about it from the perspective of the resources, right? How many people, not just with summoning with CC, how many people have played this game while including summoning for CC, but also like invested Zenny, invested Zenkai Souls, invested all of these resources into these characters, exchanged for them in the shop, blah, blah, to get these characters to be able to run them on this team with a preconceived notion that they can run them and use them how they see fit. And then there's later on, again, some sort of change to the entire economy of the team building system in the game. Now, again, that is well within their right to do, but I just don't think they would do it because it would completely piss off a massive majority of players. You would think that, minority of players would probably be upset about that. But again, I said in the beginning, Zenkai characters are highly accessible now. And this is the point that I want to make. There are a ton of free players that are running around. Hold on. There are a ton of free players that are running around with this exact team that you see as my team on the top. Exact freaking team. Just because of the way Zenkais are now. Now, that doesn't completely apply to the LF characters, obviously, because their rates are low. We'll see what happens. Maybe that changes sometime soon, hopefully for the better. But nonetheless, even if you sub out that Goku, you can still run this exact team and still shred every other team in the game, right? You just put somebody else in the spot, fine, right? Free players have to get lucky, and everyone has to get lucky, but they have to get a lot more lucky with those LFs to get them to 7-star. So that's neither here nor there. They're running around with these powerful teams because Zenkais are so easy to get nowadays. I mean, practically, there's a number of them that are really good that they're giving you just from the story mode, basically, to get the characters to 7-star. You just have to take the onus and be able to Zenkai awaken them, right? So you have to think about it from that perspective, that even free players would be, a lot of them actually would be upset about it. Now, again, I said personally for me, I'd be all right with it either way if they did it or didn't. But if they do it, I would probably see it being, again, at best 3 characters that are Zenkai possible per team, because I don't think anything lower than that really is fair, especially because you would rip apart some of these teams. And you got to think about it too. Like, let's look at GT, right? This is the last thing I'm going to kind of talk about. GT's probably one of, like, the, if not the most, probably like the 2nd or 3rd most expensive team in the game, period. Like right now, like it sucks to be a GT main right now if you're not a spending player, because this team went from 0 to hero all of a sudden with 3 Zenkais and an LF character, and they're getting SS4 Gogeta. I'm telling you, they're getting him very soon. It's like a very, 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 very premium team, but their 3 best characters remain the Zenkai characters currently. If you take away their utility of being at least able to use 3 of the characters, the team again falls off a cliff. There are a number of teams that would be grossly impacted by that, and there are some that would be able to survive. Like androids, I think, will be fine if you let them only run 1, because 18 is so powerful. Sun Family / Hybrid would be fine because Gohan is so powerful, and there are other good non-Zenkai characters like UI Goku, for example. You'd be fine with, like, Sun Family, for example, with that team, and you'd be good to go. But there are some that would just completely fall out of relevance in any way, shape, or form, right? So that's more or less what I wanted to talk about here. I don't think it's particularly happening, and if it does happen, I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. But it was an interesting topic that was floated around. Definitely not trying to give them any ideas, but I'm sure that if you're doing your due diligence, you've probably, if you're them, talked about this in some way, shape, or form, at least at some point in the last year and a half. Zenkais have been a thing. I'm sure they've talked about it. I'm positive, right? And they apparently saw it not fit. But the interesting thing I want to see is another year from now, when there's 50 plus Zenkais, right? How are things looking then? Does it at 2 years from now, when there's 75 to 100 Zenkais, does it just become too much? Like, there's a whole other, like, side of this coin where Zenkais are so powerful that even the worst Zenkais are better than a large majority of the general roster of the game, and they're so powerful that you would think that they're kind of hurting the economy in terms of the ability to summon for new characters, or the want to summon for the new shiny characters, because the new LF, who with his horrible trash rate, is not as good as a summonable Zenkai character. This has turned into more of like a general Zenkai video in and of itself. But I'll leave you with this. I need to see how this evolves, really. You can kind of see the writing on the wall that this has definitely become Zenkai Ball Legends. But I think that if you haven't yet, if you're a free player especially, you need to be, unless you're not like playing competitive. If you're playing PvE only or whatever, then this doesn't really apply to you. But you really need to be, if you care to be competitive, hyper-focusing on Zenkai characters, and maybe like 1 or 2 teams that have good longevity even without Zenkais, like Future, for example. I'm pretty sure Future is going to get a buff here in the anniversary again, and that would be a year with very few Zenkais, by the way, that they have been able to get consistent buffs, making them pretty much the best high priority team in the game, as opposed to like some of the others like GT, right? So I'll leave you with that. Thank you all for tuning in. If you guys enjoyed, definitely an interesting topic. Let me know if you guys have any other fun things you guys want to see discussed. In fact, it'd be better if you tweet me. The link is down below. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see all of you in the next video.